Hi, everyone. This is the 2024 Mayor's Lunch, Part 2. We were going to do some Q&A at the end of the luncheon yesterday, but ran out of time. And Madam Mayor Parker has graciously agreed to join us today to do that Q&A. So, are you ready?
I'm excited. Thank you, Chellie. Promises made, promises kept, Chamber.
Absolutely. Well, question number one, and by the way, these came from chamber members. When they sign up for the lunch, there's a section that says, what would you like to hear in the program? And so these are all questions from our members that they wanted to hear from you about. So the first one came from the mainline chamber. And the question is, which workforce development initiatives will your administration enact to ensure that everyone can participate in the economic growth of the city?
Wow, workforce development is such a huge part of what we need to move Philadelphia's economic growth forward, and skilling up folks who are already in a particular industry that doesn't pay a great deal, preparing a workforce for the industries that are thriving. So immediately, and here, Chellie, you know I'm biased because you've heard me say it 1,001 times, life sciences and biotech, those lab technicians, people who can start off making, $55,000, $60,000 a year, access to a 401k, health care. And at one company, they said they offered stock options. I never thought about stock options when I was in high school.
I didn't either.
So that becomes extremely important. And then I keep thinking about CTE. I'm thinking about Ryan Boyer, building trades, Bill Spruill, carpenters, all of those who are responsible for building what the future of Philadelphia looks like. So imagine if our young people in Philadelphia schools, imagine if they were all a part of it. So those two are the first two that come into my mind. But there's a third one, Chellie, that comes to me, but it's out of necessity. We have to train people to be our next generation of municipal workers here in the city of Philadelphia. I mean, not just for Philadelphia, but local, state, and federal government.
You know that's near and dear to my heart.
No, yes,
as a former city employee, yes, I agree.
And we said, who would have ever thought that right now we would be in talks, with school district. We have the greatest superintendent in the world, by the way, with Tony Watlington, along with Dr. Guy Generals at CCP.
Yep,
so I'm expecting some great things. And for teachers, we look at the teacher shortage. We've got to find a way to be creative. We're working on it.
It sounds great. Mm-hmm. So the second question comes from Urbane, and they asked, which industries and sectors should Philadelphia focus on from an economic development perspective?
Well, wait, Chellie, you introduced me to them yesterday, I think, when we were there. Right, okay. One, I've got to go back to where the workforce, so we want to prepare the workforce for the future. I'm thinking about growth in education and healthcare. Everyone knows that our region, eds and meds, they're a significant part of our economy here, but you have to look at that life sciences and biotech.
I agree.
What am I thinking about? I'm thinking about West Philadelphia Skills Initiative. I'm thinking about Wistar. Now, Chellie, we saw them yesterday. This is what I didn't expect. Wistar.
And you were talking to Iovance yesterday. Tell the story that you told them when you were speaking with them. It was when you went to the Navy Yard, and you said you had to take a moment.
Chellie, this really happened. I heard about Wistar. They take me and they said, well, we want you to see a cohort of black and brown employees from all different ages and sort of backgrounds. And we want you to see them being trained to become lab technicians in life sciences and biotech. Full disclosure, I wasn't feeling extremely optimistic. I was a little pessimistic. I was like, okay, let me see it.
I don't blame you.
Right?
I don't blame you.
Chellie, I walk in the room with the team. They have their lab jackets on, the microscopes. They're doing it. My eyes, I well up. I'm a crybaby, right? My eyes well up. I said, can you all excuse me 1 second? But you know me, I want to have it together, right? I walk out.
Project authority.
They take me to the bathroom. I go in there, I get it out, and then I go back, and then I get a chance to meet with the cohort. I mean, it filled me. I was really filled up, so it gave me a sense of hope and pride. So, if anyone, sometimes people say, well, she's really gung ho when it comes to life sciences and biotech. If you would have had the opportunity to see what I saw, this is what I think about. I would say you would know why I was so very excited.
And to me, it's one thing to talk about a program, it's another thing to see it and to feel it, right?
I think you are 1,001% correct there, because I'm a visual person. And again, I'll be honest, because I've been working in government and in public service for so long, I've heard so many people like make so many promises about a lot of things, Chellie, and you're like, oh wow, that was good. He said it or she said it. I can't wait to see it happen. And before you know it, you're like, well, wait a minute, 10 years is gone by. What happened to what he or she said? But to see that in action, and then a spark. I'm thinking about spark. I'm thinking about this, again, cell and gene therapy. Life-saving, production of research. And oh God, it's just wonderful.
It's pretty amazing.
Yes, it is. It is.
All right, so next question. This comes from Squash Smarts, who asked, how will your administration coordinate services for young people so they have access to safe and enriching opportunities?
Chellie, as the president and CEO of the Chamber, I, as mayor of this city, if you and I don't find a way to use each of the tools that we have to create opportunities where our young people can learn, grow, and thrive in environments that are safe and clean and green, Chellie Cameron and Cherelle Parker will have failed.
I agree.
But we have to do it together. So think about the traditional vehicles, obviously in schools. Think about parks and recs. But for me, I think about workforce development. I'll tell you something that's come to mind. I started thinking about companies that do business with the city, right? And I think about my upbringing. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I was an intern at a place called WDAS radio station. The general manager was a guy by the name of Kearney Anderson. E. Stephen Collins was there, but it was then owned. This before radio became corporatized. It was owned by a group called Unity Broadcasting Network, guy by the name of Eugene Jackson. And when I met E and Kearney, it was when I won this contest. I met Tasco. I started interning in her office. But when I would come home from undergrad during the summer and even during the spring break and winter break, I would go and work in the general manager's office. Now, I didn't know that this was a part of their way of adopting me and keeping me busy so that I was engaged. I didn't have room for folly. Let's say that, because between Tasco and the radio station, they really kept me super busy. So, that's how industries that are thriving, industries that are growing in the city, how are we plugging our young people in real time in ways that we can measure? So Clancy, he's got to help us a great deal here. And again, the partners that we talked about earlier.
Pat Clancy is one of our biggest partners.
Excellent.
Did you know that my mom and dad were public school teachers? I don't know if I ever told you that.
No.
And you just reminded me of something that my dad always said, and that was, we kept you busy with after-school activities and jobs. I was a telemarketer. I was a waitress. I've done a lot. I painted houses.
And waitress?
And I painted houses when I was in high school, and he said that was to keep you out of trouble. That was his philosophy.
Now, we didn't know that was, now this is shared experience. Telemarketer.
Oh, no.
And former waitress.
No way.
Right? And so that's super huge. And Dunkin' Donuts on Market Street. And yeah, high school was across the street. But who would have known that what you just described, what they said to you, did you know that's what they were doing?
No, I didn't know. I just thought they were mean. They wanted to put me to work 12 hours a day or whatever. But it was, I really had no idea. But yeah, when we talk now, my mom and dad said, they really wanted to make sure that we were focused and that we had good experiences that would prepare us. So,
Chellie, I know this is going to sound super strange to somebody, But when I listen to you share that story, in my mind, I'm thinking, this is not rocket science.
That's right.
If we would all go back and think about what made Chellie Chellie, what made Cherelle Cherelle, what sort of put us on the path, dig deep and find a way to actualize that today in modern times. Like, we didn't have social media, you and I didn't. We didn't have like games the way we had Atari. And I think it's
I was gonna say
We
Atari,
had
yeah.
Oh God, we're getting up there. We better
Oh,
not
boy.
say that out
I
loud.
know,
Atari.
I know.
But how do we find a way to use those vehicles, the coding and the gaming, all of that to like engage young people?
That sounds to me like a call to action to the business community. Internships, apprenticeships.
Oh, I love it.
All right.
I love it.
We'll take that as an item.
Yes, I love it.
All right.
I love that one.
So the Philadelphia Zoo, next question. Is curious to hear about your plans around sustainability initiatives as part of making Philadelphia a greener city.
Well, I first got interested in this issue in my district when I was in council in particular, because you've heard me say I'm a visual learner. I learned about something called the Urban Heat Island Index, and Councilwoman Catherine Gilmore Richardson, she was the first person who I had this conversation with. And I began traveling on blocks and noticing that literally it was much warmer during the summer months than other areas that had what we call tree canopies. And in areas where there were more tree canopies, there were less respiratory health challenges with young people in the community overall. We saw some research. And I thought to myself, wow, here we are when people think about the environment and greening and sustainability, and they connected to climate change, and that's extremely important. But this was something that they would have an immediate impact, that just people in neighborhoods who may not think about sustainability and climate change, they could make a connection there. So we're definitely going to work with PHS. We're going to work with other cleaning and greening entities to plant as many trees as possible. PPR has done a great job. And working with institutions like the zoo. I'm thinking about the Arboretum. We have to work with as many partners as we can.
And last question.
Wow.
We got through these pretty quickly. Jong Sa Martial Arts and Learning Center wants to know how the Chamber can support your plans. Specifically, how can we help citywide efforts to curb violence and support positive outcomes?
Wow, and this is a good one. Jobs, jobs, jobs.
Jobs.
Yes, those internships that you just heard Chellie mention, the apprenticeship opportunities, anything that arts and culture and creative economy, anything that we can connect our young people to, I would argue that's outside of what they believe is their natural sphere. People hear me say all the time, I'm a product of extremely humble beginnings. I didn't know when I was growing up, right, that we were poor until I realized, oh, there's some difference, and how certain people do different things in life. But in my community, Chellie, I ran track. I was a cheerleader. I ran in the Penn relays in middle school. Internships at radio stations. Traveled to Africa, North Africa and West Africa when I was 17. Somebody's saying, well, how in the world do you do that if you were poor? Cherelle, because my community controlled for things that were not a natural part of the socioeconomic status for someone like me. So that's how we can do it. Get engaged, and this is the responsibility of the city and the administration as well, working in partnership with the chamber and organizations like it to connect our young people with resources everywhere. So I call it like getting plugged in. So you have the partner or the member organizations. We have the administration and all of the quasi-governmental groups that are part of it. Chellie, Cherelle, our job is to plug plug those organizations into systems that our young people can access so they'll get a chance to pick and choose, find out what they're good at. I know I'm not good at bending metal and doing anything associated with wood because I had wood shop and metal shop in school. I made a napkin holder. We had to bend the metal. Mommy put it on the table, but it was lopsided because it was bad. But I know that that's not for me. So, just access to as many opportunities as we possibly can, and high expectations. Don't, and this is something that I will battle with until the end. Don't have low expectations for anyone because of where they start in life. Mm-hmm. Humble beginnings, but my grandparents, they were extremely proud. Domestic workers, cleaning houses. Head up, shoulders back, work hard. I expect excellence from you. That is what we have to do for our young people. So put them on a path to self-sufficiency and give them and their parents access to opportunity.
So Mayor Parker, you've made some pretty strong statements about other areas that make people not feel as safe as they need to. ATVs, retail theft. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Chellie, number one responsibility of the mayor is ensuring the public health and safety of the city of Philadelphia. And, after you've, gotten through a campaign where you travel to neighborhoods in every section of the city, you can't ignore when people tell you, who live in neighborhoods, business owners who own businesses in neighborhoods, tell you that they don't feel safe. I'm not talking about here the data. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when people tell you how they feel. You can't ignore how people feel. So I don't care if we're talking about retail theft in neighborhoods. You heard me talk about this on the trail. Illegal use of ATVs. Quality of life crimes in neighborhoods that make people feel like government's not paying attention. And so what I've said on a number of occasions, and I haven't whispered about it, we will enforce the law here in the city of Philadelphia. Commissioner Bethel, Public Safety Director Gear, they're working on putting together a comprehensive plan for me, Managing Director Teal, that will ensure that we do just that. So, I'm thinking about, and people always think of like big business owners. I literally had someone tell me, when you think about what people will say, I had someone to tell me, well, if it's a large chain business where this kind of theft is taking place, why are you worried about it as if it's your money? They're insured. I said, I want you to think about your own life. Your car is insured, but the more accidents you get in, or the more times your car is stolen and you have to report it to your insurance company, guess what's going to happen with your car insurance? The premiums are going to skyrocket.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
But guess what? The person who asked the question, when you made it relative to their life, they were like, oh, I get it. I said, and what about the little guys on the neighborhood commercial quarters? And you allowing somebody to go in, and you remember my example, stealing $499 worth of merchandise and thinking to themselves, well, okay, I did it. We don't have to have any fear of being arrested here in the city. We'll just do it and leave. Who's going to do anything to us? That kind of behavior cannot be tolerated here in the city of Philadelphia. Comprehensive approach, prevention, intervention, and enforcement. And that's why the partnerships that you and I just talked about are so important, because instead of going into a store and stealing anything, how about we do what your mother and father did with you and what my village was doing with me, keeping me so busy with opportunities that we couldn't think about, that kind of thing.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back. We went a little longer than expected yesterday, but I'm glad we came right back day 2 to make good on what we promised.
But you know what? This created an opportunity for us to talk a little bit more about what's most important to you. And that was the purpose of yesterday. We wanted the business community to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chellie. Thank you for having me, and thank you to chamber members. I appreciate you, and we need you. One Philly, a united city.
One Philly, a united city. Thank you.